Oh, yeah, I can't do the show.
Yes, yes, yes.
Classic.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm your host, the OG Dad himself, and you just tuned into another episode. Um, I'm struck with a little bit of personal news, so bear with me. This episode, a family member passed away just this morning, and it's also her birthday. So I'm kind of dealing with that. And today's episode uh was mostly about the legacy we want to leave behind and what your kids remember about you. And, they don't remember resumes. They don't remember your promotions. They don't remember, how busy things got. You know, what they remember is how you made them feel at that time. They remember, you know, our approach, our tone, right? Versus what we actually said. They remember how patient we were, you know, than the actual activity or plan that we had. Um, they remember if they felt safe, um, or, things were unsafe, or they felt like they were being rushed for some reason. And I used to think being a good dad meant doing more, um, participating more, showing up to all of the things. And those things are really important. But as I, grow as a husband, as a father, I realize, my tone and how I approach things matter. And, those will be the things that she'll remember when she grows up. And she'll remember if dad beat her, which I don't. Um, if dad, gave her a ridiculous punishment or was unfair about things. Um, and I really wanted to kind of get that out there. I didn't even plan this. I just decided to record today. And, I was hit with that news and I'm thinking about what I wanted to talk about and it all just like, I'm sorry. Please feel free to tune away if this is boring you. But, I used to think it was mostly about just kind of doing more effort, more structure, more showing up. And, realistically, we're not always going to have time for those things. And, that's okay. You know, um, being a parent, you have to be a taskmaster, right? You wear many hats. You have to participate in many uh uh things, but you can't participate in everything. Um, speaking about my last episode where you're taking time for yourself and self-care and, having time for your significant other, all those things, are extremely important. And yes, they pull away from some of the other activities. Now, I like to go swimming. Well, my daughter has swimming lessons, and that's kind of our thing that we do um on Saturdays. So I'll never book anything else, um, plan anything else, schedule anything else. It's just daddy and daughter time in this pretty pretty uh pretty serious, environment, like a pool, like, watch the news about kids, drowning in pools, and it couldn't be a more dangerous place. But it's a great opportunity that I get to spend with my daughter. And we do our swimming lessons for 30 or 40 minutes or whatever it is. And, you know, is she afraid at the time? Oh yeah, 100%. Um, but she knows she can count on me. She knows that I might let her go, but I don't let her go off. I don't let her, she's never out of my sight or in my reach. Do I extend some leeway so she can kind of explore on her own? Absolutely. But I want her to get comfortable with the water and stuff like that. And I want to get myself comfortable with her being in the water. So, I'm also learning to trust her, to, trust her instincts. Um, but that's a moment that I hope stays with her. I hope, you know, the moments of dancing to some of her favorite songs, is something that sticks with her throughout her lifetime. Um, Although I heard it gets pretty rough when they become teenagers. But I really just think about some of the things that could affect um her in a negative way. And here's the part we actually don't talk about. The version of you that matters most might be the version of you with the least energy, right? So the end of the day version, the version that's running on fumes, the version that's already given everything away, that version still counts, because then you need to refuel, you need to, figure out how to get that rest. Because more often than not, your child still needs you in the roughest parts of your life. And are you going to have some downtime? And, will, will they see you kind of stumble a little bit? Yeah, probably. But it's what we do after is the part that matters. You know, yes, I'm tired. Yes, I would much rather be in bed. At the end of the day, I choose being a husband, a father, and a creator in that order. It's really about the lasting impression we want to leave behind. Um, and this episode's kind of a downer for me, just because I got that news not long ago, and it's really got me thinking about um just the impression I want to leave behind, not only to my daughter, but also to my wife. Like, if, I'm the one that goes first, and then, it's like, oh, my husband's so great. And she will never move on. She will miss me for eternity. No, we, we have it arranged. Something happens to me, grieve me for 2 years max, then move on, or a year max, whatever. Um, Sorry, just trying to lighten the mood. Um, and in those moments when patience is kind of thin and the room is quiet, your kid, they're learning exactly who you are. Me, I'm a person that kind of needs that space to go away and recharge and really kind of reset myself. So yes, I love being around my family. Yes, I love doing activities, but when the battery is tapped, then I need that opportunity to recharge. And if I don't get that opportunity, then I do my absolute best to put a veil over that, because that's a version of myself who's not 100%. And it's like being hangry, right? You're just not yourself when all you can think about is food and nothing else. When I'm tapped, when the well is tapped, and all I have to rely on is my instincts, I have to take a beat and chill. Because at the end of the day, she has no idea what's going on. Her day isn't my day, and I can't pass that stress over to her. Um, and that's one of the things I think about when, things got me stressed out and like I just don't know how I'm gonna get through something. The last thing I want to do is pass that doubt over to my daughter and her being questioned about everything. It's not fair, and it's undeserving. So, for me, it's really something to think about to to navigate through. And it's okay that we're gonna mess up, and we raise our voice, and where we miss moments, not on purpose, and we get it wrong. And it's not failure. The failure would be pretending um we didn't do any of that stuff. Some of the strongest memories aren't built in perfection, and they're built in repair. So correcting one's error is always the way to go when it comes to raising kids. We raise our kids with a mirror, basically, right? And we want them to be not only like us, we want them to be better than us. And I want her to be a better version of myself. I want her to be a better version of her mother, my wife. And I think when you're in denial about the job you're doing as a parent, then you can run into some real problems. And when you have an opportunity to slow down and apologize, you can admit when you're wrong. I think that goes a long way. It teaches something, really powerful. It teaches your child that love doesn't disappear when mistakes show up. And that's something I like to reinforce when quote unquote discipline is happening um with an almost 2-year old. It's not high stakes here. Um, we can have stern conversations, but we're not yelling, we're not cursing, we're not throwing anything around. Um, have a conversation. I really like to talk to my child like a human being, like she's a human being. Baby talk is cool, but I do like to talk to her like a person. I'm gonna bring her on the show one of these days, and we'll just talk, and she'll be off camera, but we'll figure it out. So, take a moment to pause, just for a second. Think about what the impression is you're leaving behind, because that really sticks with you. I think about when I was raised and my siblings were raised. I think about some of the parenting tactics from my parents, and what my childhood looked like. Um, were they perfect? No, never. No one's perfect. Um, and some of the things that they said, I'm 37 years old today, and those things stick. Like, I still think about some of the things that were said um to me as a kid, and you know how that affected what I do for a living, who I married, like where I am in life. you know and I have no regrets about any of those things now, but I really do think about the the ramifications of using, you know, not good language around, kids. Um, and I don't want to, we're breaking the curse, and I don't want to pass that along to the little one, just, especially now when she's so small and just, she's just now figuring out what numbers are, right? Like, it's, it's, she's not there. She's not there yet to even have anything close to that conversation. So, it's literally in one ear and out the other, first and foremost. Secondly, that's a baby. And, they're very impressionable. I saw her just yesterday. Um, so we have Apple TVs, and on the Apple TVs, they have like voice to search buttons. And she loves watching Elmo and stuff like that. So we'll put Elmo on, but she had the remote. So she grabs the remote and somehow fumbled her way to YouTube, and she holds up the remote to her face and starts saying Elmo. Now, she doesn't know there's a button you need to push to activate it, but the fact that she's watched us close enough to see that action and know what to do it's eye-opening, it's admirable, and it's scary as hell, because now we're leaving those lasting impressions. Now she remembers, dad keeps some of my toys in his office, or, you know, um, mama likes to empty the bubble machine, so we need to fill it with more bubble juice. So, you know, just thinking about just kind of the impression we leave behind. Do you really want her going off on somebody, repeating exactly what you said? I don't think so. Because how would you explain that? Like, you couldn't. Um, choose who you want to be remembered as. I don't have control over everything, but I do have control over intention. I can choose to be calm when I can. I can choose to be present when it matters. And I can choose to be gentle hard. I can choose to be the dad who listens, the dad who shows up, the dad who's setting up a safe space. Because one day, my child will describe me to someone else and have to explain the situation, which is something I've had to do more times than I can count. For a while, I could not tell my wife why I wasn't that close to my mom. Now, I talk to my mom at least once a week over the phone. Not as close as I would like to be, but everyone has a past, and what else can I do except love her from afar? And you know, coming back to me, I just hope, you know, one day she says, you know what, my dad wasn't perfect, but he was there, and he cared, and we talked, and we laughed, and we danced, and we did all those things. So I'm not trying to be the loudest dad in the room. I'm not trying to be the most flawless dad. I just want to be remembered well. And if you're listening to this, if you're reflecting, questioning, showing up, you're already doing more than you think. So thank you, listener, for listening to the OG Dad Off the Record podcast. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, and I'm sure there are plenty other platforms out there. Thank you again for showing up every day, even on the hard days. This is the OG Dad, and I'll catch you in the next one. Y'all be good. Peace.